My next guest is Bill Wilkerson. Bill is an 8-time award-winning pioneer in workplace mental health. He's been part of this movement for a long time. He's the executive chairman of Mental Health International, chairman of the Pan-European Business Leadership Forum to target the impact of depression in the workplace. He's also general chairman of the US-Canada Forum on Mental Health and Productivity. That's a lot of really long titles, fully deserving for somebody who's so prolific. Bill Wilkerson.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Bill, so nice to join you.
I'm here sitting here with Steve. So
I know, I saw, I saw
in.
Steve next to you. There was a Steve down there. Trust me. We've been figuring this out as we go too. It's such a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I had the opportunity to speak with you once, I think a few years ago. And it always stuck with me, your passion for the issue of mental health, but especially mental health in the workplace. So I want to target this into what we've been going through just over the last year. And in your opinion, as somebody who's been part of this for so long and has such deep expertise in this space, was corporate Canada ready for the mental health impacts of a global pandemic like this?
The answer is no. And as it turns out pretty clearly, neither were several other sectors or segments of society. With respect to public health, for example, we found this pandemic has virtually demonstrated the fact that public health, prevention, education has been, if not underfunded to its near-death state, certainly severely impaired. I think there's some opportunities going forward. And if I may, if I could just talk about two things for just a second, Mark. I've been working at this, as you say, for a long time. So I'm not pretending that I have another 20 years to give. So what I have, I think, right now is a perspective that took time to develop. And I think we've reached a stage where a little bit here and there is no longer good enough. Steve Lurie made the point about incrementalism. We've even slipped back from that. There are just enormous gaps in the fundamentals of healthcare, in the fundamentals of public health, in the fundamentals of workplace health and safety, with regard to the way in which we can help people make their way through a condition and the symptoms thereof. And I think Stefan has made the point well that the peer support idea and model has evolved over these many years as one of the life-saving features of this. But again, we're talking incrementalism. I don't want to talk big picture ideas to the exclusion of what's already going on. Absolutely not. But now's the time to make a societal and a business economic commitment to prevention. We know enough scientifically now to take it on. We know enough scientifically now to say that we can prevent the disabling effects of mental illnesses. We can prevent the risks of premature death due to heart attack, which is the risk of is exacerbated by depression. We know enough right now to begin to look at the question of whether we can isolate societal pressures that can lead to the reduction of risk across whole lifetimes. Misogyny, racism, these aren't only intrusions on societal well-being, there are intrusions on individual well-being, where the brain function is central and hope is essential and so on. So I think we've reached a point where we need a major commitment, and I'm launching a thing with a variety of international partners that's going to try to bring a focus to get out of this incrementalism on societal, economic, and scientific measures to bring about an era of prevention. And I think the time is called for, and the time is now to get that going.
Well, Canada has long underfunded mental health care relative to the rest of the healthcare system for a long time. And I remember when I was on the board of directors for the Mental Health Commission of Canada, they had set as a target just to get us up to I think it was 7 to 11% or 9 to 11% or something like that, with a timeline of several years to do so. Now, presumably, I think many people on the policy side know that the money is there. It's a matter of what you choose to spend it on. So why should policymakers at the governmental level in publicly funded healthcare systems, why should they take money from something else to put into mental health care? What's the
Yeah.
business case?
I really think that's a pertinent question. And I would say that one of the steps is to stop looking at medical and health factors as the exclusive point of reference in containing mental illnesses. We do it to each other. 40% thereabouts, according to data out of the United States, of the risks associated with mental illness, and particularly depression, anxiety disorders, as we know those two things, and schizophrenia, are due to genetic vulnerability. The majority of risk factors come from society, environments we live in, the work we do. And I said, I'm a business guy, remember, and I served in a lot of senior positions. And I can tell you right now is that business can begin to reduce risk, not so much by what they do in the workplace, although that remains important, but stop certain practices that put pressures on people, such as layoffs. Mm-hmm. Layoffs during the pandemic, to me, are not only unreasonable, but uncalled for. Air Canada recently laid off 5,000 people. To what end? They certainly aren't going to save any money that way. Secondly, this continued preeminence of financial capital over human capital. We now have a stakeholder form of investor interest coming into play that could change that ballgame. Misogyny, that is an intrusive form of mental health risk, which institutions can, in fact, begin to resolve. So I think what we should be doing is not looking at this as some kind of healthcare investment, but in societal betterment and in human betterment. And I think the time's come that can happen. And we know enough scientifically to know that by going that route, we are going to demolish, if not demolish, reduce some of the prima facie risks of mental illness, which are now a lifelong experience, starts in childhood. Child abuse and child adversity is a principal cause of later in life mental illnesses. The violation of human rights is a principal cause of mental illnesses. And we can begin to fight some of those well-known causes, not just in support of justice and economic balance, but in support of mental health and well-being.
Absolutely. With big action, I think will come big results. Bill Wilkerson is the executive chairman of Mental Health International. Thank you so much for joining me on Mental Health Live today.
Pleasure. Thank you.